Hi there, I am Stacy Phillips, and I am so excited to kick off my podcast, Stacy Phillips and Friends. Each week, we will step into my wardrobe, literally one of my closets, where one of my nearest and dearest friends and confidants will fill this chair next to me as my co-host to chat a little bit about life and a lot about women empowering women. Together, we will have a gap session with just us gal pals, a deep dive for the dish, a convo among co-eds, and then our big feature presentation, the special guest interview, or what I call the SGI. So welcome to Stacy Phillips and Friends. Let's keep it real. Welcome to Stacy Phillips and Friends. I am here today with two very dear friends of mine. My co-host, Angela Reddock-Wright. We've been friends, as she was reminding me, for close to 30 years. Eva LaRue, we've been friends for how many? 15 years? Oh my God, that's scary, sweetie.
I know.
Oh my God, that's truly scary. Two beautiful people that I've spent time with, not enough time, because that's the problem with this life. But both have been through my journey with me. So some of you know Eva from CSI Miami or the soaps, but she's so much more and so wonderful and such a great friend and a great mom and just a member of the community. Angela, terrific lawyer, mediator, all gal pals, understand the power of women. And I know you have passed that on to your daughter, the importance and the power of women. My women's events, like my women's holiday party that you both go to.
We were just talking about
Yes.
that. Neither of us know anyone who has such an incredible cachet of girlfriends. Like
Yes.
just, and each one of them is a badass.
Yes, that is the common theme.
It's like literally like these incredible women. And I'm not talking about 20 girlfriends. I'm
Right.
talking about hundreds.
Right.
Like 200
Your
people.
parties, you have to do 2 separate nights because there's not enough space on one night for all the girls.
It's
LA's like, we
amazing.
can't host Stacy's events on one night.
No, she has too many
So,
amazing friends.
Years ago, when there were actually fewer, because the more women I meet, the more I pull into my circle. So one of the things that's really cool about you, Eva, is, in addition to being a TV person, which is sort of funny because I went back and was watching an old CSI Miami episode to see you. I was like, I was laughing watching it because you were a kid.
I was.
You're really
I feel
beautiful,
like.
beautiful. You're of the Bahá'í Faith, and one of my other closest friends, so I now know my women's holiday party who to sit you next to
Okay.
is Bahá'í, and we were at a dinner that she orchestrated with Justice Nelson, who is of the Bahá'í Faith, and others. And I think they thought it was sort of a proselytizing dinner. I was just interested in, because I love all religions. I was a religion history double major.
Were you
And
really?
I love going to different churches. Like the First AME Church is one of my favorite places.
Oh, wow.
One of my dear friends preaches there sometimes, and I love going to watch her preach. I love the preachers. I mean, I go to my synagogue, but my rabbi doesn't, scream and yell
Not the
and
same
Yeah,
run
fire.
around.
I love a good, passionate message. I don't care what denomination you come from or what, background. If you've got a beautiful, fiery, passionate, spiritual speech, then it's good coming from whoever it's coming
So
from.
when I started dating Brad, my now fiance, I'm practicing that word.
Take a moment. Yeah.
He's Catholic. I'm Jewish.
Mhm.
He's not converting. I'm not converting. And we talked about that on our first call. And
Well, it's not like you have to raise children now.
that
Like, you have to
exactly
figure out
right.
how to raise children.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
First
And
call?
in the very first, we
went
talked
deep.
about the important things. And I'm a little scared to say some things on. He said, if I didn't believe, that would bother him. If I was Jewish, he
Yeah.
was absolutely cool with that.
Mhm.
And I love going to church with him. I actually push him to go more. I love that structure and that symbolism, whether it's the First AME or my synagogue or a Catholic church or being with people of the Bahá'í Faith. So here's a soapbox. Talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like too, it's really about nourishing yourself in all the ways, right? We try to eat healthy, we try to exercise, and I think the other thing that is super important, especially now, is some base in faith, some base in, like, feeding yourself spiritually is as important, if not more important, than the food we're eating and the information we're taking in. And, I just think that for me, I'm a Baha'i, but I grew up a non-denominationally Christian. And, but I was always fascinated, like you said, with all religions. And I didn't really understand why one group of people were going to heaven and other groups of people were going to hell, when I saw that some of the ones that were supposedly going to heaven were kind of horrible. or promulgating hate, And so the thing that drew me to the Baha'i faith was, first of all, I didn't become a Baha'i until I was 15, because within the Baha'i faith, you can't become a Baha'i until you're 15, because they want you to have, one of the precepts is independent investigation of truth. They want you to go out, study every other religion, see what's up, and come back and choose the Baha'i faith because you're choosing it, not because you were born into it, not because your family wanted you to be a Baha'i, but because you're actually choosing it of your own volition. And I loved that about it too.
So at age 15 or 14, when you started learning about it, how did you learn about it? How did it come into your
My
home?
ballet teacher was a Baha'i. And it was really, I just happened to be a Baha'i and started teaching my mom about it. And then then we started going to different, Baha'i gatherings and things like that. And we just fell
Your
in
whole
love with
family?
it. Yeah, fell in love with it.
Where'd you grow up?
Because it was so accepting and unifying and tolerant and, and all the things. I grew up in Norco, California, in Riverside County. Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
Birmingham, Alabama, then Compton, California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that couldn't be more different if you tried.
That's a whole story unto itself, right?
And I grew up in New York City. I mean, we couldn't be more different in terms of backgrounds.
Yeah. I love it.
Do you remember the evolution from being a Christian to being a Baha'i?
Yeah, I remember the biggest hurdle for me was sort of that indoctrination, that the heaven and hell thing. That if you choose wrong, you're going to hell. Like, but I also couldn't wrap my head around it. But that's what I'd always been taught. Like, if I was choosing some other faith, that I was going to straight up be damned forever. And but ultimately, my heart didn't understand that. Ultimately, I just don't believe in people being damned. You know what I mean? I just don't. I feel like there's an absence of goodness in people, and I don't think, just by way of being an actress. Oddly enough, when we choose roles and we're working on roles, and you're playing an evil character, you never play evil. You don't play into evil. You don't. There's no playing evil. It is somebody who is dedicated to what they believe,
even if it's evil.
But they don't think it is.
That's a good point.
Do you know what I mean? No one. Do you know anybody who thinks they're evil?
No, they think they're right.
They think they're right, including a lot of people right now who are so hell bent on being right that there's no room for heart or depth or acceptance or love or compassion or empathy, or like all those things have gone by the wayside in lieu of being right. And truth is such, like, it's become perspective, and that their perspective is right, and that is never right.
Wow, that's a very good point.
Interesting.
How were you
times
raised
indeed.
in religion? Are you still the same religion?
Yep. So I'm Christian, grew up Baptist, Black Baptist.
You have the
in the
most
South,
fun,
of course you
you
were.
have the most fun parties. I have always wanted to go to a Baptist church.
Well,
and
go to
sing,
First
like,
AME.
really,
I mean,
it's a
is it
great
singing
church.
and dancing?
Oh,
all the
my
things?
God.
Okay, can I
Okay.
go with you?
Yes.
I would
Yeah.
really. I have always, and I told my daughter we're dying to go to that kind of church
she
and
has
just
to come. It is
experience
so
the
much
whole
fun.
thing. Yeah.
And in as you were saying, your fiance is Catholic. There in South LA, there's a Catholic church that has
Is it
gospel
party?
music.
Oh,
Wow.
And the priest is very like what you might
Cool.
find at a
Yeah.
First AME. So I'll have to find out the name.
That's
You'll have to
fun.
go there together.
Oh, wow.
Let's go. Let's all go. Let's make
I
a
love
Sunday
it.
of it. Yeah.
I really
And then you got to
enjoy
follow it
that.
up with brunch, because Sunday isn't a Sunday.
Yeah,
Unless
without
it's
a
like-
brunch.
Although, do you have a favorite church you go to here? If you
So
go,
I go to my church that I grew up in. So I grew up in originally from Birmingham, Alabama. So Baptist church there, and then when my mom and I moved to California, we joined a church called Citizens of Zion in Compton, and I've been going there now for 40 plus years. So
Awesome.
still go back
Is that who
home.
married you? Your minister?
Yes, the pastor that I
Yeah.
grew up with, and his son had just become the new pastor. So they both did the ceremony together.
Wow.
What will you do for a ceremony?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we're thinking now is, and it sounds like it's a joke, that a priest, a rabbi, and a judge walk into a bar. We are thinking of a priest or a deacon,
Mm-hmm.
my cantor, because I know my rabbi won't do it, my cantor, because I've talked to him, and a judge. To have the marriage
I love
recognized in the Catholic Church, you have to be either married in the Catholic Church or have the marriage blessed by a priest or a deacon. And therefore, that's why you have a judge, who ultimately signs the papers and be blessed by rabbi or cantor and the priest or deacon. But that's us, the three. He's not a lawyer, but he deals in the courtroom, and he's a receiver, trustee. If you look at the graffiti towers downtown, he's responsible for selling them. So he deals with lawyers and judges all the time. I'm a lawyer, and he's Catholic. I'm Jewish. So having the three together, to me, makes sense. But first, we have to pick a venue and a date. This is...
What are you thinking venue-wise, LA or Orange County?
Either.
Okay.
Interesting, he lives in Orange County, but he doesn't have a lot of friends down there. But I'm looking for a venue that is not overwhelmingly expensive, because at this stage of our lives, we don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking it through and investigating, and I
That's
throw
the
parties.
fun part. That is
it's
you're good
over.
at this.
If I could do it here, I would do it in a heartbeat. It's not large enough. I've thrown a wedding. My friend Monica, the backup singer.
Yeah.
I threw her wedding here. I planned it in 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know all the people,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but this is much more overwhelming. And we had a conference call today, and I'm like,
Conference
okay.
call for the wedding.
Isn't there also something to be said
With
for
a wedding planner, which
wedding
I've
planner.
never hired a wedding planner in my
Okay.
life.
That's exciting too.
It's
So
gonna be
this is a
beautiful.
journey. Very different and very excited. And he is loving it. He keeps practicing the words
Aw.
Beyonce and wife in it. It's really
that
cute.
is so sweet.
It's really, really
That's
cute.
really
I'm
sweet.
so
You deserve
excited for
it.
you. Yeah.
You deserve
So
it.
very, very happy about that. So you raised your daughter in the Baha'i Faith, and she gets to choose at 15?
She did. She chose at 15. She became a Baha'i. I think she was a little lazy about it and became a Baha'i at 16.
How do you become one?
She just didn't go and register with the Baha'i Faith until But she grew up. But I also she went to a Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's
Good school.
Yeah, good school. And I feel like parochial schools are the kind of the cheapest private education.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
So it works out great. And she was the only Baha'i in her class, but there was also a Zoroastrian in her class, and it was like 35% Jewish at her school.
Wow.
So there was a lot of different religions in the Catholic school, which I think is great too.
I don't know if I've ever had this discussion with you. I might have. How you ended up becoming an actress. I know you get that asked all the time, but
No,
you're
not all the
pretty
time.
cool at it.
I started when I was little. My mom
6 years old.
Yeah, 6 years old. So my mom put me in a little beauty pageant when I was 5. And the judges of the beauty pageant, 2 of them were from a little commercial modeling acting agency here in Sherman Oaks, just over the hill. And so they ended up representing me, and I got my first commercials when I was 6 and 7 and 8. And then there was kind of an awkward phase in there from about 10 to 15 that I didn't really do any work, but all during that time I was
Because you didn't want to,
dancing and
or you were...
singing. I think I was just in a weird, awkward phase. I wasn't like the cute little kid anymore, and I was kind of like a gangly preteen. And but all during that time I was dancing, I was singing, I was doing musical theater, and I was developing. Yeah, I was training. And then in high school, during the summers, I started doing extra work because I didn't have an agent. And then when I was 17, turning 18, I did, Star Search
Oh,
Do you
oh,
remember
singing?
Yes,
Star
yeah.
Search? Yeah.
You sang
Nope,
or?
I did the acting category
Oh, okay.
before they got rid of the acting category. So I took the acting category down with the ship. I went right down with it. It was like the last year they had the acting category because it was mostly, remember they used to have the stand-up comedians, the modeling category, like supermodel category.
Wow. They were
um,
everything.
and singers, and there
Dancers,
there
probably.
was dancers, and then there was actors. Acting
Okay.
category. Yeah. So from there, I got my first adult agent, like a theatrical agent, and starting doing guest star work and stuff. And I got my first soap opera on Santa Barbara, and
Oh, yeah. I
yeah,
remember
and
that
did
one.
the new Candid Camera with Dom DeLuise. I was hosting that, and then I
Uh-huh.
got All My Children, and I moved to New York for 10 years and did All My Children, and that kind of kicked off.
And that's how you met the father of your daughter.
How I met, Kaya's dad, because he was playing Edmund on All My Children, and I was playing Maria on our characters got married on the show, and then our characters got married in life,
Oh,
and then that's
wow.
kind of how
And All My Children still has a following, right?
It does. I get stopped more for All My Children than I do for CSI Miami. And CSI Miami had like a gazillion fans, but All My Children went on for decades. So many generations of people knew All My Children are fall. And it's on every day. So I feel like they feel like your family.
Right.
Because you're there every day, not just once a week or at the movies in different characters. They know your character. They're like growing with your character.
Right.
So there's something really special about doing soaps.
What was the difference? Because isn't one filmed and one taped between a soap and like CSI Miami? The way they do things, isn't it different?
They soap operas are on tape, or they were. Maybe they're not anymore. But they were on tape, and a nighttime show or is on film.
And do you have teleprompters for both, or did you have to learn your lines for both?
You got to learn. Oh my gosh, soap operas! It's sometimes 75 pages of dialogue a day.
And you do 5 days a week.
Yeah. Well, usually you're not, unless you're in a really heavy storyline, you're only doing 2-3 days a week. And if you have a really heavy storyline, you're going to do a 5-day week. It's mind-numbing, the amount of.
How do you remember all those lines? I just.
The brain is a really interesting muscle because I describe it like a rubber band. Like your brain is normally like this, and then when you have to start packing in all this, it takes sometimes like a month or so to get your brain working in that. And then I swear you can't remember anything you did yesterday or the night before, but you can remember all of that, and then the next day you don't remember any of it. It's this weird part of your brain that just expands to take in 75 pages of dialogue, and then it like contracts again. And you're like, what did I have for breakfast yesterday? Don't know. What did I say yesterday? Don't know.
Interesting.
Couldn't repeat it.
Which was more difficult for you? The soaps back in the day, CSI, or the soaps you're on now?
The soaps are definitely the hardest. By far, because there's so much dialogue. And then a nighttime show, we would do like 8 pages in a day. That would be a heavy
You're like,
day.
this is easy.
Yeah. But oddly enough, a lot of it on CSI Miami was all procedural jargon.
Right.
So it was
That's a little harder for you.
scientific stuff. And I had a really hard time wrapping my head around words, like whole dialogue of like speaking in Japanese. You know what I mean? Because it's all this scientific dialogue that you're supposed to just rattle off of your head, like you know what you're talking about, but you really don't know what you're talking about, And so,
which set was your favorite in terms of just being connected to the other actors?
Oh, I mean, both. We were such a family over at CSI Miami, but I think my forever family is from All My Children, because we kind of grew up together. We were, none of us that I know of, I don't think we went to college, like the kids, I mean, we're all adults, but, me and Kelly Ripa and Sarah Michelle Gellar and, and all these we all kind of grew up there together in our adolescence, in our early 20s. And so they're always family, and then now I see them over at General Hospital. They've all moved out and moved over to other soaps or other projects.
You having fun doing the soap now?
Yeah, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
So
you were
that
just winding down last I read.
Yeah.
So I hadn't asked you.
And so that was a really fun run, but the character was terrible.
Evil.
Oh my God. My character was painful to even play. It was so bad. I was only supposed to be there for 3 months. So they wrote this really terrible arc for me. And I was like, oh, okay, I can come in and play that and be done. But then they decided once I was there, they were like, oh, why don't you hang out? Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll hang out. And then they tried to redeem my character, and that never, I was irredeemable. So the fans just hated me, and they just finally
what
wrote me
I couldn't
off.
figure out is, I don't know how you play an evil person. That is not your persona. That is not your look.
No.
And how they could think of that.
And my character was a total homophobe. I couldn't even say the words. I had this monologue about all of her beliefs and whatever. And I was like, are you sure I have to say it as written? They're like, you gotta say it. So, like I couldn't even, it hurt my whole body to even be her. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
I've heard other actors talk about how they have to reconcile playing somebody that they just don't understand and just detest. And you just have to sink into it and believe in that moment. Believe that you're right. It's really about what people are doing when they just believe to their core that they are right. And then.
So I'm not going to ask you what you're doing next. I'm going to ask you what you would like to do next. They put it out in the universe.
Well, what I'm doing right now, and I think we can talk about it because I think this is going to come out like later, and we'll probably investigate it a little bit more. But I sold a documentary to Paramount Plus this year.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. And and from the documentary, it looks like it's going to be a scripted series. So I'm been working on the script for a while, but the unfortunate subject matter is that I had a stalker for 12 years. And then it also became my daughter's stalker.
Oh, wow.
So it started when she was 5, and when she was 8, the letters started also including her. And these were pages and pages every time of how he was going to kidnap me and her and hold us as sex slaves, and then chop her into little pieces, and then chop me into little pieces. And it went on for 12 years. And the irony is that I was a DNA specialist on CSI Miami at the time, and the letters that were coming were, covered in DNA because he had licked the envelopes, stuck his fingers all over the stamps. There was tons of DNA, but again, the irony was, on the TV show, we had this fake technology that didn't exist. And in real life, the FBI could not find my stalker for 12 years because they didn't have the technology. And then consequently, the Golden State Killer is completely separate and yet collides. The Golden State Killer case here in California, which is the biggest serial killer case, cold case in California history, had been cold for 43 years, and there had been more than 5,000 suspects. And the homicide detective on that case, Paul Holes, was getting ready to retire. And with it, the case just being cold. And 2 FBI agents, one actually was a lawyer, an FBI lawyer. So he wasn't even an agent, but he was fascinated with the case and why it hadn't been solved. And Michelle McNamara, who wrote the book, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and also had a podcast because she was obsessed with the Golden State Killer. And she was the one who coined the phrase in her book, Golden State Killer, because he had been the Night Stalker, he'd been the Visalia Strangler, he had moved all through the state, and continued to kill, and he was an ex-cop.
Wow.
And he had moved all through and so she was the one who put kind of all of the info together and realized this is the same dude. And so she was the one who coined him the Golden State Killer. Steve Kramer, who was the FBI attorney, called Paul Holes one day and said, I'm fascinated with why this hasn't been, why he hasn't been caught. What can I do? What can we do? Oddly enough, you guys probably know this because you're lawyers, but I don't know if this is like general knowledge that the FBI doesn't cover murder. murder doesn't fall under their jurisdiction. If
I don't
murder
think I knew
happens
that.
because of racketeering and tax evasion and crime
Interesting.
stuff,
Yeah,
if
I
murder,
think I thought it was about where it occurred as to whether it involves the
You mean
FBI
state or federal?
or
it's
state or federal.
like,
Yeah,
so state is
but I didn't
because
realize that.
somebody is
Okay.
always murdered in a state and it becomes local law
Right.
enforcement's.
But we see that in the
Mhm.
current case going on. The local prosecutor presented the evidence
Yeah.
related to the current
Isn't that interesting? So
situation
even
in
if it's an
Utah.
FBI
Yeah.
case, they don't cover the murder. They don't cover murder.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
he just said, look, on the slot, like what, we've got all of this FBI stuff. How can you,
Maybe we can help you.
maybe we can help you.
Mhm.
And so he got one of his friends who was an FBI agent on board, and the two of them had to do this work outside of the FBI on their own time. And there was kind of this ragtag team of 6 people who all came together. They ended up creating a brand new DNA technology while working on this case that had to do with the advent of 23andMe, Ancestry.com, GEDmatch, all of these things that didn't exist before. And I know there's all kinds of, information around those entities because they really are a vault for your DNA. If you go on GEDmatch, 23andMe, any of these things, and you put your DNA in there, it's a vault. They can't share it with local law enforcement. They can't share it with insurance companies. They can't share it with anybody. But if you check the box that says, I want to find other family members, you're fair game. Now your DNA is out there because you're looking to connect with other people. So they took what was available because up until that time, the only DNA available nationwide was in CODIS, which is the national database for all DNA. But the only people in CODIS are 86% perpetrators that are already in jail because they've already been caught, because none of us are in CODIS. No one's ever, taken our
Voluntarily.
DNA. We're not up for murder or rape or anything like that. And that's the only reason they would take your DNA. And the other 14% are Jane Doe rape kits that they don't have a face name to yet. So if you weren't in CODIS and my stalker wasn't, there was no way to catch someone. So they all of a sudden had access to millions of DNA, points that weren't available to them before, although it was super gray because they were the area because they'd never done this before. And of course, serial killers and serial rapists aren't putting their DNA out into 23andMe, but all they have to do is get a hit on a 5th cousin.
Hit on a what?
5th cousin, 4th cousin.
Okay.
Something like that.
Somebody that checks that box.
Right. And in the DNA tree, so you're looking at the DNA tree, and they just start going down each branch and saying, nope, 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 nope. They get down to the last branch and the leaves on it, and you're on a 5th cousin. And then they just start knocking on doors and making phone calls. Hey, do you know somebody who lives in this area? Do you have a family member that lived in Visalia, that lived in, San Francisco, that lived in Riverside? Like who, and that they just start compiling information on that last branch, and they get their person. And then once they get their person, which is what happened with my stalker, they have to dot the I's and cross the T's. They have to go and stake them out, wait for them to throw out DNA, something out, where they can get the date. In my case, they waited for him to throw out an Arby's. He threw out an Arby's bag, and they got his DNA off
What
the
state?
straw.
What was that? Where was this?
Ohio.
New York? Ohio? Oh.
And they got his.
Were you in Ohio?
No.
This was okay.
No. We've always been in California.
Okay.
But
he was in Ohio at the time with the Arby's box?
Yeah. And so, but they had staked him out. They already knew at that point it was him. But the crazy thing, so they solved the Golden State Killer case after 43 years. And the very end, the FBI said to them, look, that was a fluke. That's not a technology. That was just some weird, random winky dink that you were able to solve the case that way. And it's super gray area. So you can't, you can't
put it out there as the new thing.
And they said, well, let us prove that it's a replicable technology. And they were like, okay, but you do you on your own time. So the next case, so the guy who had been my FBI agent contact for 12 years had just gotten a promotion, got kicked upstairs, and one of the guys, because the other one was a lawyer, so he wasn't my case agent. This guy inherited all of the old my old representative's files. And he said to him, and I think just because I was on CSI Miami at the time, he was like, please take care of my girls. I haven't been able to solve their case. And he said, is it DNA heavy? I'm looking for a DNA heavy case. He was like, it has got DNA all over it. And he was like, so mine was the next case they picked up after the Golden State Killer.
Yeah. Wow.
And they solved it in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And in the nick of time, because the stalker found my daughter's high school and pretended to be her dad and called the school pretending to be her dad and told her to stand outside and he'd come pick her up.
Had he just like seen you on TV and became obsessed with you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so when did they pick him up in relation to him showing up at the school?
They called me and said, because we were panicked. I was like, she can never go back to the school. Like, she can never, like.
And you found out that the principal said somebody, and because her dad's gone.
Well, her dad was still alive.
Okay.
Yeah, her dad died 4 months ago.
Okay. But they knew it wasn't him?
No, they thought it was. And they were like, you're acting erratically. You're being erratic. You're being crazy. Like, I'm sure it's just like some, like, just an accident or whatever. And we're like, nope, because he's not here. Her dad's not here in LA. Her dad and I were great friends. He's not going to he lived in Palm Springs. So it's not like he was going to be up in the LA area. And he'd never picked her up from school before because he doesn't live up here. And she'd been driving for 2 years. So,
So you figured it out?
We immediately figured it out. She was like, oh my God, Mom, call Dad and see if he's here. And I called him and I said, are you here in LA? And he's like, no, I'm not here. And I called her and I said, I am racing to you. I'm picking you up. We're not going home because I don't know if somebody's going to follow us from the school. I don't know what's going on. I called the FBI on the way there. And they said, but they got back to me later that evening and said, this is pretty crazy, but we were getting ready to call you to tell you that we know who your stalker is. We solved the case 2 weeks ago. There's boots on the ground in Ohio right now, staking him out, waiting for some DNA so that we can match it.
But he had left Ohio, was in LA at that point.
We thought he was, but thankfully he wasn't.
Calling.
I don't know if it's a spoiler alert.
I know, I'm already like,
so when did they pick him up?
So they picked him up,
So did he have stuff all around his house that proved it, or did he confess?
All around his room. There was, the thing is, by the time the FBI have you, you're done. When local law enforcement come to hook you up, that's different because they're still trying to put together a case and there's all kinds of fumbling of evidence and things that can go wrong. But when the FBI gets you, it's because they've had eyeballs on you. You know what I mean? There's like there's so much evidence, and so much DNA evidence.
Did he confess?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, when we saw him in court, he gave us his.
Was he convicted?
Yeah, he was convicted.
How long?
He got 3.5 years.
That's not
God.
No, he should have gotten 3.5 years.
Does it look like he was stalking others other than
he was stalking other celebrity women? At least 3 others. One that I know for sure because she called me at one point in that, and none of them would come forward. And so there is a worry about, now doing a documentary. You don't want to re-incite. You don't want to copycat. You don't want like all these things. And I see now why people don't come forward. You just want it to go away. That weird thing about, so here's like a crazy statistic. 13.5 million men and women just in the United States and per year are stalked.
Oh, God.
13.5 million. And it's like 1 in 3 women in their lifetime will be stalked and 1 in 6 men in their lifetime will be stalked. And the heartbreaking thing is it's something that you just want to, it's like considered this crimeless crime because they haven't done anything yet. So you're not constantly talking about it because you feel like you're this girl who cried wolf because nothing has happened yet, but you're living terrorized.
Yeah.
Terrorized for years because every letter was, I'm around the corner. I'm in your yard. We didn't know, when he was, if he was, where he was.
Where was he incarcerated?
Do you know, I don't know where he was incarcerated, but where he was released was 10 miles from my house.
Oh, wow.
He had never even been to California before. They released him 10 miles from my house. And and this just happened. This was just 6 months ago. I had to work for 3 months with my U.S. attorneys and with my FBI agents to get him moved back.
Wow.
So there's protection around him because I said, if he's 10 miles from my house, you better give me his address. And they're like, oh, no, he can't do that. Sorry about that. And I was like, oh, he can find my address, but I can't find his address. Is that what you're saying? So you've set up a protection system for him, but there's no protection. And do you know there's no national
hotline for stalking?
There's domestic violence, which a lot of times it overlaps. But domestic violence is, I think the statistic is 43% of domestic violence victims are stalked, and the rest are just straight up stalking. That almost always escalate into sexual violence or murder or something. We're actually working with another activist right now to see what can be done and how to. January is National Stalking Awareness Month. Not that that's really meant much to this point. So my daughter and I would both really like to move the needle and change some legislation around it because it's just crazy. But yeah, Paramount Plus, November 13th.
Oh, it's coming out?
Yeah, it's coming out.
It's already
Yeah,
we're holding this episode until afterwards.
Yeah.
We made that.
Okay,
or the week
good.
before.
You tell us one.
Okay.
So thank you, Eva, for being here. And, this can make a difference.
It's so fun to be
This can make a difference.
Yes. Wow.
And that's sort of the goal of this podcast, to make a difference in different ways. And God bless. And thank you, Angela Reddock-Wright, Eva LaRue.
I'm having so much fun.
That's cool.
So how do you want to be contacted?
So you can follow me at on Instagram and Facebook at I am Angela Reddock-Wright, and I have my own podcast, The Legal Lens. And you have to come on and talk about stalking and legislation. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, TikTok, etc.
And you, sweetie?
I have my Instagram is at Eva LaRue. And I have a TikTok that's at Eva LaRue, and also a website, evalarue.com.
And for me, join me again here at youtube.com at Stacy D. Phillips Esque, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Stacy D. Phillips Esque. We will include the links in the physical version of this, but most people listen to their podcasts. That's why I wanted to ask. And so you've been listening to Stacy Phillips and Friends, where love is always in fashion.
Yay!
Yes.